actually got a question for you, and I was thinking about this on the way over here.
Yeah.
And it was something that came up from like a different conversation that I had with a few other people. When did you first actually feel like you were a man? Because that could be either like when you first got your driver's license, when you bought your first car, when you got into college, when you first had sexual relationships. What was it?
This might be man. This might be more first time I felt like an adult, maybe more so.
Okay.
But it was what came to mind is when I opened up my first bank account.
Okay.
And then I was like,
how old were you?
18.
18? Okay.
And then there's like maybe like little moments that built up to it, like going on a trip with friends versus like family.
Mm-hmm. When you're actually out on your own making your decisions, you have nowhere to actually go back to.
Yeah. But haven't thought about it too much. Like, I want to say that, like, maybe it's because, like, the inner kid in me, I try to, like, encourage and enjoy.
No, I get that.
It's like, it's a balance.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like I know how to put on, like, my serious, like, this is me being a man, this is me trying to help stabilize or be there for others mode. But then there's also just, like, the fun kick back and let go of, like, responsibilities mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to some extent, it is good to have both.
Oh, it is. Totally is.
But if there's ever a moment where I think that, like, switched on for me, I don't think so. Do you have a moment for yourself?
See, I was thinking about this. I asked myself this question again because I didn't know how to answer it before. I know I am a man and I am not a boy at this moment in my life. And I had to look back into everything else I did. Because I remember getting my driver's license. Oh, yeah, that was great. That was awesome. Do I feel like a man? At that moment, I did. But every 16-year-old in the United States, average 16-year-old, gets their driver's license. It's that piece of freedom. I mean, same thing. I mean, it's like it's also that that locker room talk. Okay. Oh, did you get with her? Did you sleep with it? That type of thing. And then all the guys say, "Oh, hell yeah." My friends were weird, man. But that's like the norm for guys.
It is emphasized a lot.
It is.
And then over, like, not in, like, you, like, stretch, like, you're, like, not sure if certain people are stretching the truth or not.
Oh,
but, like,
yeah.
But it doesn't really matter as much because, like, you don't really know the details. And, like, I find it high school and, like, that era to be, like, very trying to, like, find these, like, ways to get, like, attention and, like, show off.
You're trying to be popular.
Yeah.
You're trying to be a part of that, as many clique groups as you can. Or you're trying to be the top dog in your clique group.
Which, I mean, for me, I was, like, the shadow kind of side person in, like, a few different groups.
Mm-hmm.
But only, like, in my senior year of high school did any of them feel like I was actually, like,
a part of the group. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to continue on, so when I was looking back at myself, I wasn't a man when I got my driver's license. I wasn't a man when I got my first car. I wasn't a man when I had sex for the first time. I wasn't a man when I moved out on my own for the first time either. I was still a kid. I was a boy still. But what makes it different for me now and at this point is because I spent the last 2.5, 3 years really diving into myself to know who I am, because I have a better understanding of myself and I hold myself to a different code than I have ever done. I hold myself, my values, at a higher esteem than and enforce those more. And just the way that I live my life is the way that I want to live it, and I don't want anything really to compromise all of that. So it's a way of thinking because it's a responsibility to myself. And also it's because I'm of what I do for work and in my different, in our different groups, friend groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's probably like my mid to late 20s. I'm just like, I mean, if you asked me earlier, I probably would have said so.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like not to like my mid 20s at least, had I had like a nice amount of like breadth of life experiences, like trials and failures, and like seen myself go through different struggles. Have I like, and maybe it's a part of aging too.
Oh, it is.
That
really
like
is.
your brain starts to, well, that is one of the scientific points, is as you go through your 20s,
your brain's technically still developing until you're 26.
Yeah, and one of the things that you don't have earlier is your ability to gauge long-term versus short-term interest.
Yeah, and that also means...
and that's a huge one.
It is, and that also gets related into personal relationships and your working relationships and where you want your, instead of having a job, a career.
Yeah, and when you're younger, you're like, short-term, I can look cool if I race this other car and win.
Yeah. Yep.
Me now, I'm not... Why am I trying to look cool for someone else?
Yeah. Why am I blaring my music why am I blaring my music as loud as I possibly could with my freaking sunglasses on and my arm hanging out the window like I just don't give a shit?
Now I feel personally attacked because I do that.
I still do that. But that's also because that's a different mindset for me, is like, I enjoy driving. I enjoy going down the road because, I grew up in the country. So driving on a 2-lane road or a highway, I am going somewhere where I'm going to be having fun. I am enjoying the music.
Yeah.
I'm just centered in myself and I'm embracing the moment instead of trying to show off. And that's that thing with aging and changing your thought process.
Yeah.
Now we can still do that. It's just we have a different thought process. Now what other people perceive and judge us and what we're freaking doing is a whole different thing.
Yeah. And then it's always interesting, like, people's ability to have that energy, like the person in the back of the meeting who's like doing stretches because they feel good stretching, but like the norm, you have to have some level of self-confidence and maybe gauging the situation, but like choosing what feels more authentic to yourself and versus doing something to impress another. Yeah. And there's some conversations around to some extent we gauge and compare ourselves to others, so on a subconscious level, it's we have some level of mentors or people we look up to, and a sense of who we are and those we interact with. And so I think there's in a vacuum, what ends up happening as a person versus just all these different little parts of what you see growing up and just the parts that you like can't control. There's like so many like little bits that make you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's finding that like self-confidence and like acceptance is something that is not taught or like really, I think, embraced. And I think it leads to a lot of these men's issues.
Yeah.
Because we're always like trying to like be this like bigger thing or comparing ourselves and